Cinnamon rolls are one of those things that everyone loves. It looks so intimidating, but it really doesn't have to be complicated or hard to make. Today, join us in the kitchen. We're going to show you how to make it the easy way without any precise measurements. We're going to make this off of feel and intuition. Let's head into the kitchen and make these cinnamon rolls so you can enjoy them with us. Let's go.
Hey everybody, if you're new here, my name is Rosa and I'm the mama of our plant-based family of 7, and welcome to the Hi Path channel. If you don't know, Hi in Hebrew means life. Did you know that? Today I have Mercy helping me with cinnamon rolls. This is going to be a very, very simple, no fuss, really no measuring type of recipe, just because this is just how we roll in our kitchen. And we like to teach our kids to cook with intuition and cook with like feel and smell and taste instead of following a recipe to a T, because not all recipes come together the same. It depends on the ingredients, it depends on your environment. So not all recipes, even if you follow it to a T, not all recipes come together quite the same. That's what I've noticed, and that's why I've learned how to cook with intuition. So I'm going to teach you guys how to do that. So to start off, we are going to be making the dough. And to make the dough, we're going to be using a very simple bread recipe. This is really our sandwich bread recipe. You can use this for our naan as well. This is like the most basic yeast dough. So if you want the written recipe, we will have it in the description below, but you really don't need that. I'm going to show you how to make it just by the look and the feel of the dough. So these are all the ingredients that we need. We have water, we have coconut oil, some yeast, coconut sugar, some flour, just some regular all-purpose. You can use some home ground flour as well. We don't have any ground right now, so we're just going to use some all-purpose organic, of course, and just some salt. So I have a mason jar of water. This is about 3/4 of the way filled. On here, it's about roughly 5.5 cups or so. We're going to start off with that. So put that in. All right, I will. And I am sorry about the hissing in the background. Trey is actually pasteurizing some substrate for mushroom grows. Now we're going to use some yeast and we're going to sprinkle it into the water. We're just going to make sure that the top is covered with the yeast.
We are just using a regular active dry yeast. We're going to put about a teaspoon and a half, but really we just kind of sprinkle it on like this. As it covers the water, we know it's enough.
So we're gonna then add a pinch of salt, like a good pinch, maybe 2 pinches, because we're gonna make quite a bit. The coconut sugar, it depends on how you like your dough, but for a cinnamon roll, I suggest making it a little bit sweeter. So we're gonna put about a 1/4 cup or maybe 1/2 cup or so. Just like this.
We added just about 1/2 cup, maybe 3/4 cup of sugar. We don't like it too sweet. Then we're gonna add a little bit of coconut oil, maybe about a tablespoon or so. We are gonna mix the liquid ingredients up, and then it's time to add the dry ingredients. I forgot to mention we're going to add about a teaspoon of salt as well, because the salt always brings out the flavors of everything. So now the flour. When we are using an all-purpose flour, it acts differently from a fresh milled flour. You're going to really want to play with the amount of flour that you add into it. When you're using a fresh milled flour, you're actually going to use less flour, and the dough also acts a little bit differently. So in this batch, we're going to add as much flour as it needs to make a dough ball. As you can see, as I'm stirring, you can still see wetness in this dough or this mixture. Add some more flour and keep going until you can see that this dough is forming into a ball of dough that does not have any wet bits. We are making quite a large batch for our family, so we are using quite a bit of flour. Alrighty, up close and personal, as you can see, there's not like puddles of water surrounding this dough. This is the point where you stop adding flour, but you're going to continue to mix it. I am using a dough hook. I can't find this specific dough hook anymore on Amazon, but I will link one that is similar to this one. Now, as you can see, we do everything by hand here. If you have a stand mixer, this is a time to bust it out, because the more that you knead this dough, the better. But of course, if you're doing it by hand, it works the same and it's still delicious. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of flour as I switch to my hands to mix the rest of this flour into the dough. I would recommend that you start with less flour because the more flour that you add, the tougher the dough will be. And you don't want that. You want a nice fluffy cinnamon roll that you bite into, that it's nice and soft. I kneaded this dough for about 5 minutes or so, not too long. We just want to make sure that all the flour is incorporated into one cohesive dough ball. Generally, when you're making cinnamon rolls, you want to enrich this flour to make it nice and buttery. So traditional recipes use a lot of butter, and you're essentially making sort of a brioche bun or a dough. I've also seen recipes using eggs and things like that. Today, to enrich our dough to make it just a little extra rich, we just added some extra oil, and we used some coconut oil. This is actually my favorite part when kneading dough. Once you add that oil, it makes it so much easier to knead this dough. Nothing really sticks to you, and you just want to incorporate that really well. Work that in, stretch that gluten in this dough ball. And that's how you develop that soft, pillowy goodness that we all want in a luscious, delicious, ooey gooey cinnamon roll. Okay, I am already getting hungry just talking about cinnamon rolls. So in this step, I added about maybe half a cup of coconut oil. You can definitely use a lot more if you want. Now this is what I end up with. We are going to cover it up, and we have a warm setting in our oven. You can just put this in anywhere that is warm. I have a warm setting that I turned it on and then I turned it off and left the light on just to create that warm atmosphere so the dough can rise and proof in there. We let that proof for about 30 minutes, 45 minutes or so, or until it is doubled in size. Now it's time for the fun part. We are laying all of our baking sheets with parchment paper because we don't want things to stick. So I have 3 trays here. I have one that is a longer one that's a little shorter, and one that is a circular round one. Time to reveal our dough, and this is what it looks like after it's sat for a little bit. This is Mercy's favorite part, is to punch down the dough. We are going to do a quick knead of this dough gently, just kind of deflating this dough. You can definitely play with this dough a little bit if you want to. It's definitely really fun. Actually, after making these cinnamon rolls, I've discovered that I really like to work with dough. To make a very ooey gooey crust on the bottom layer, we're going to add some coconut oil on the bottom of each pan. You can add as little or as lot as you want. I am adding about 2-3 tablespoons each on each tray. And for this metal one, I'm just going to use a brush to brush it just so that it's nice and spread. And then on top of the coconut oil, we're going to sprinkle some coconut sugar. You can use any sugar you like, but we just prefer using our organic coconut sugar. I will have a link in the description if you are interested, or if you're looking for a better sugar alternative. Sprinkling this will make the crust so nice and ooey gooey. Trust me, just do this, it's so good. To get ready for our dough, we're going to sprinkle on some flour on our board, and we're going to work in small little increments because our board is so small. So we are just splitting it up a little bit. So I have a dough ball as large as this. This dough is a little bit sticky, so you want to make sure that you are well flouring every surface and any utensil that you're using. We add some flour on the very top as well before we rolled it, and then it's also a good idea to flour the rolling pin as well. Our goal is to roll this out into a nice rectangular shape. It doesn't have to be perfect. Of course, ours isn't going to be perfect. Some turn out all wonky and some turn out circular, but that's okay. Just try your best to make it a nice rectangular shape. I would suggest, if you like a lot of filling and that sweetness and cinnamon filling in your dough, to roll out this dough as thin as possible. The thinner that you get it, the more layers you will have. Traditionally, in a cinnamon roll, you are supposed to make a butter, sugar, and cinnamon mixture. It is very rich, it is very fatty, but of course it's delicious because who doesn't love butter? Well, today we are going to make a little bit of a lighter version, and this is how we like it. It turns out beautiful as well. So on the top of our dough, we are going to just spread some coconut oil, and then we're going to sprinkle some coconut sugar right on top of it. No need to make a paste out of butter, or no need to make a coconut oil sugar mixture. We're going to then add some cinnamon on top. You can add as much or as little as you like. We like it quite cinnamony. It's just that flavor is so good. Another tip is to add a teeny bit of nutmeg if you have, just to elevate those flavors. So now, once the coconut oil is on there, the sugar and the cinnamon, we're going to roll it up. Now, as you can see, we didn't add enough flour under our dough ball, so it's stuck a little bit. So it is important to just really well flour your surface. Once it's rolled, we're going to cut them into some cinnamon rolls. We like them thick because we like a big cinnamon bun. But if you like a thinner, smaller cinnamon bun, go ahead and just cut it a little bit thinner. Let's transfer these onto a tray. You can use any tray. We have the 3 that we are using, so we're going to start with our circular one. This is just a cake pan. We are going to put them right next to each other because when we bake it, we want it to kind of expand into each other, making a huge piece of almost kind of like monkey bread, if you will. Our cinnamon rolls are going to be connected to each other, but that ooey gooiness is just going to go sticky into every crevice. Oh, it's just so good. We're going to continue on making our cinnamon rolls the same process as we did the first batch, just to fill up the rest of our trays. This is actually a very, very fun project or activity. If you have kids around, we would love for you to invite them to make cinnamon rolls with you. It's really therapeutic and it's really fun to just be able to touch this dough. It's kind of like playing with Play-Doh. Your inner child just comes out, especially with me. I really just love handling this dough because it's just so nice and fluffy and soft. Also, if you don't have any coconut sugar, you can definitely use just brown sugar or really any sugar. Usually a brown sugar will be nice and caramelized. The molasses in the brown sugar really comes out in a cinnamon roll and it's delicious. Today on our cinnamon roll, we're going to keep it very simple. We're not going to make a cream cheese type of topping. We're just going to leave it plain. You can definitely make sort of a cashew cream to go on top of it, but I decided to just leave it plain because the kids have been loving this. Like every single time I make this, they want to make this a staple. Israel has declared we should make this every Thursday and Saturday because they go crazy for cinnamon rolls whenever I make this. As I mentioned in the beginning, we're using a very simple bread dough to make our cinnamon rolls. Now, we've definitely been finding a ton of versatility with this bread dough because it's just that easy. Once you've learned how to master or really just cook with intuition and feeling, you can make so many things out of just one basic recipe like this bread dough recipe. And actually, I can't even say that it's a recipe. It's more of a technique because you're just mixing these ingredients. You're going to go off of feel and sight and smell, and so it's really not following a recipe listed out on a piece of paper to a T. So we highly encourage you to get in that kitchen, get your practice on, cook as much as you can for yourself or for your family. And then you're going to start learning to create things on your own, and maybe you could share it with us on the High Path channel as well. Our last few cinnamon rolls are going into this large baking pan, and to just make it extra cinnamony and pretty, we're going to add a little bit of a sprinkle of cinnamon, extra cinnamon on top. Why not? I have the oven preheated to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. We are going to bake these cinnamon rolls for about 30-35 minutes or so. I would suggest checking at about 28 minutes just to see if it's done, and then if needed, you can definitely put it in for a little bit longer. Alrighty, it's time for some cleanup, and cinnamon rolls are ready. If you could smell these cinnamon rolls across this video, you're gonna melt because the smells are just so good. And these are so light and so much healthier, I would say, than a regular cinnamon roll. It's not as sweet and sugary. Look at how these expanded as they baked. We love the look of these, and you can see that sauce on the bottom of it is sizzling and bubbly. We're gonna leave this to cool for about 5-10 minutes or so, just until it is nice and ready. And we are going to flip this. This is one of my favorite parts of making this. So we are just putting a plate on our cake pan. I probably should have used like a knife or something to go around these cinnamon rolls, but that's okay. I slowly urged our cinnamon rolls to come out of the pan. And voila, our cinnamon roll has arrived. Look at that ooey gooiness. This is just from adding that coconut oil and the coconut sugar on the bottom. You can also add that cinnamon for that extra cinnamony, but this little extra step and this crust makes it just extra delicious.
Not so bad.
Isaiah, really put
What?
one down. What's wrong with you?
What? What?
Three.
Not one down.
All right, what do you guys think? Ooh, it's nice and soft.
Showing you up close how our cinnamon rolls are. You can see the ooey gooey bottoms and how soft and pillowy and rich this dough is.
It's gooey.
Right.
It's too gooey. That's good.
Okay.
Gooey's good. I know.
This is nice and fluffy. It's not overly sweet. We don't really like very sweet desserts, so this is the perfect treat for your whole family. We would love for you to try this at home. Let us know in the comments what you think. If you are new, we would love for you to like and share and subscribe. And we'll see you on the next video. Bye everybody.
Bye. It needs to be a staple month every Thursday and Saturday.
Oh, really?
We'll put it on the list.
We're eating this whole pan.
We'll save that for later.
And that one. I'll have to save this one for later. I will smell it.
Alright.